Kia ora everybody, welcome back to the channel. Recently, Colouring Bumblebee uploaded a lovely video where they went through their colouring journal and what they track each month, and they mentioned that they'd like to see about how I track in my journal, so it's like, okay, I could do that. And I do get a couple of questions about some of the stuff that I do in my journal, and in particular, one particular spread that I do in my journal. So I thought, why not? Why not do a little bit about how I track stuff? So this is my colouring journal that usually features every wrap up video each month. This is just a brand called Future Useful. I don't know. I just found it at the warehouse here in New Zealand, which is kind of like Target, Walmart, I think. I know. It's just like it's the warehouse. It's a warehouse. Yeah, but the reason why I like this is because it is actually a grid book, not like a bullet journal, like an actual mathematics or arithmetic style book. And I really like having the squares. Sorry, if you see glitters on my fingertips, I've just been Mod Podging with Mod Podge Extreme glitter, so there's like glitter all over my fingertips now. But yeah, I like having the grid format. It's sort of like having a bullet journal, but I wanted one that was bigger. So this is about A4 in size. It is really big. I originally wanted a really big one. I really like having the space. In future, maybe I will try a smaller one, but I really like having a big journal. Works for me. You know, journaling is about what works for you. Now, I've used this since the start of 2023. So this is 2023 and 2024 in there. I change what I do a lot over the time. So sometimes I would like plan out whole videos or do different spreads. There's even my graduation speech from when I graduated in here. And then some months I literally just write down absolute basics. This is me working out what I had work in progress and worked in and hadn't worked in terms of books at the end of the year. So sometimes I do fancy spreads. Sometimes it's literally me just chucking stuff down on a page because that's what I need to do. So, you know, it doesn't always have to be beautiful spreads, though I do like doing some fun spreads. I have a lot of art journaling and scrapbooking stuff, so yeah. But I'm going to take you to 2024, just because I feel like in 2024 I kind of refined a little bit more about how I track. And I say that knowing that I've just set up May's spread and I've already changed some of the stuff that I'm tracking or how I set it up in May. So, you know, even as I do things, I still change around. I just make it work for me in the month that it works for me. But yeah, so at the start of 2024, I did set up this spread here. I just really wanted to pull out a bunch of my art journaling stuff and just have some fun. So this is like a magazine, couple of magazine pages. This is like some glitter card that I had. I had a bunch of these different gold vellum elements. There's some crystal stickers. These are different scrapbooking pages that I cut up as the clouds. And then I put like piles of Mod Podge over this so everything would stay stuck down. And it provides like a really good, thick, solid page. So it really breaks up 2023 to 2024. And then we get to the first spread, which is a calendar. I've never referred to this. I still tend to put a yearly calendar in all my journals and I never use them. I always use a calendar on my phone, but I'll still put a calendar in my journals for some reason. This one I just found online. I just Googled 2024 calendar, printed it out, stuck it in, done. And then a stats overview. So I started with the overview at the start of the year. So this is as of January 1st. Then on December 31st, I will come back in and fill it out. So I have a start and end of year so I can compare. So yeah, you can see the things that I am tracking this year. So one of my big goals is to work in more of my unworked books. So at the start of the year, I had 222 books and I had only worked in 35.6% of them. So that was an unworked total of 64.4%. So hopefully by the end of the year, that'll be down quite a bit more. My other big goal is my work in progress pages. So in the start of 2023, I originally had 58 work in progress pages. So I ended the year with 19. So that was quite a bit of progress. My goal this year is to get this down to 9 or less, basically under 10. And then ideally we'll have none of the 2022 work in progress pages. And I actually have a list here of the existing work in progress pages, and anything that is highlighted is a 2022 WIP. And you can see I have crossed a couple of them out because I have done a couple of them. I actually need to come back and update this because a couple more of these are either done or a couple of books were unhauled. So they actually got rid of a couple of WIPs as well. And then I put down my socials, and then I did have my Patreon. I have closed my Patreon, so that I never actually finished filling that one out, and I am not doing Patreon anymore. So that one's just like, doesn't matter anyway. But yeah, I have my Twitch subscribers, my YouTube, my Instagram, and my Facebook, and then we'll just do the same at the end of the year. And I will also write down my work in progresses at the end of the year too, so I can hopefully compare. So it's just like a quick overview page. And then I have this spread here. I probably could have done this smaller, but meh, I did it as 2 pages. And this is just future ideas. This is the idea being each square represents a month, and I can come in here and I can write down any ideas of what I might do in that month. I also was planning to come back and do maybe some monthly hashtags or anything that I thought about doing. As you can see, I barely use this spread, so probably in future I don't necessarily need this, or I might be able to, if I insist on having a calendar, maybe cut up the calendar, put each month in the square, and then I can write down any events. I was going to pull out like a list of holidays, and I never even wrote in Easter. I forgot to write in Anzac, and I did actually have something planned for Anzac. I forgot to write that in, but I did write in like Mermay, February, Matariki. So I've got a note about Matariki, about doing midwinter Christmas, and then December I've got a note about doing bullet. I call it bullet journal, but it's really just journal setup, when I will set up next year's journal, because I'm guessing by the end of the year I will be finished in this book. So we probably will have a whole new book. And then this spread. So this is the spread that I get a lot of questions and comments about. So as you can see, this is called Hit the Horde 2024. This is my entire colouring book collection. It is a visual representation of the books I have coloured in, not coloured in, and what I've worked in this year. So I hand drew this entire spread. It took me ages. This is where a grid notebook was very handy. I have not finished colouring in the elements, as you can see. I will get there eventually. I'm lazy. But the idea is that I went to my bookshelf. I wrote a list, as you saw briefly. I wrote a list of every book on my bookshelf, and I went through and I highlighted things that had been worked in, things that had a work in progress in, and things that were untouched. So green was something I had worked in, U was untouched, W was a work in progress. I took all that information, wrote out every single book on my shelf, and then pulled out a blue highlighter and coloured in a book if I had a completed page in that book. So everything that is coloured light blue is something that was coloured in 2023 or earlier, completed page. That left a lot of white books. Then this year, with a pink highlighter, anytime I complete a page in a book that was previously untouched, I then come in here and I just highlight across it. And what that means is I can look at this spread and go, I need to colour something with mermaids for mermaid, for example. Oh, straight away, I can see mermaid's line. Now, I know by this rough order of this, what this might mean in terms of my shelf, because I've just got title and sometimes I can't fit the whole title. Here I know we've got Mermaid's Line, Mermaid's Grayscale, Fairy Magic, Fairy Art Grayscale, Goddess, and Mythology. I know that's my Selena Fennett books, so I've not worked in my Mermaid's Line art book. So I could go, cool, there's an easy Mermaids one to pull out. I can see like what of my Kirby's I've worked in and what I haven't worked in. I can see like my Lulu Mayo and how I've almost worked every single Lulu Mayo. And then I also know that Animal Adventures was the very first book that I brought in 2024. So I know from here onwards is all the new purchases in 2024. And I did think about actually drawing like a little bookmark here, so it would kind of be like, oh, this is the new stuff. So any new books I receive this year go down here. And if I need to, I also still have another page so I can expand out the bookshelf even more. The other thing that I did was I did my very first unhaul this year. So because I hadn't factored that in when I designed the spread, I did add a little additional piece to my key up here, which is unhauled, which is all of the grey books. So if they're grey, they're off the shelf. They're not part of my collection anymore. So for me, this is like a really easy visual way of seeing my entire collection and seeing this progress grow, because I know every pink book in here is a new book that I have worked in this year, and it's really cool to see more and more of the pink appearing and less of the white books being there. So yeah, that's how that spread works. I get a lot of questions about this one. I'm not going to pretend it was a quick spread to set up. It took me ages, and as you can see, I still haven't finished colouring in some of the elements, but I also had 230, I have 230 odd books that I knew I needed to write out, so I knew this was going to take a while regardless. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and we got room if I need to expand. And then we get into the actual monthly spreads. So some months I go really hard with decorating. Some months I'm just like, meh, shove a couple of stickers on there and we're done. I have a whole bunch of scrapbooking, card making and art journaling supplies. So it's really just an excuse for me to pull out washi tape, stickers and random bits and pieces and just put these pieces together and see what I come up with. So January was my birthday month, and I also had this really cute animal card making kit set, so I pulled out all the elements from that and was using that to decorate the January spread. So in terms of what I track, so this is the like if I'm going full out spread. I don't always go this full out with my spreads, and you'll see when we get to May there's a lot less than I'm tracking in May. It really depends on my mood and how much I want to track that month. However, every month I do always have a socials tracker, so I track my stats at the start of the month. I'll come in here and write what I started the month with. I'll then write what I ended the month on and how much that has gone up or down. This is just purely for me because I like seeing numbers. I like numbers, I like stats, I like percentages. It's what I like. I used to track my patrons. Again, I am no longer doing Patreon, so that doesn't get tracked anymore. And then we have the totals. So I write the total number of pages finished off, and then I track the work in progress pages. So I'll write down the previous total, how many I created in the month, so any new pages I started and didn't finish, any pages from this 19 or the previous work in progresses that I finished, and how many of those were the 2022 ones, so that I can write down here what the totals were. So in January, I created 2 work in progress pages. I finished 2 work in progress pages, but one of those was a 2022 work in progress, which means that my work in progress total was 19, which is no change from the previous month, but the 2022 whips went down to 8, so whittling them down. And then the other thing I track is my book purchases. So I track the number of new books that I got in, my running total of how many books I have, how many new books I worked in my collection. So in January, I worked in 4 new books for a total of 83 books worked. And then that gives me my percentages. So I put the new one and then I put in brackets the previous month just so I can see the increase or decrease. So I used to write down buddy colors and prompts. I kind of just put this all under one now that I just call like goals. I tend to not do a lot of prompts. I really like hashtags and prompts and stuff like that, but I'm not someone who struggles to know what to color because there's always so much I want to color. So they can be very useful if you're not sure what to do. Occasionally I'll do them, like if I've got a new book and there's a prompt going around for the book, and I'll be like, okay, cool, I'll do that page or something. But generally speaking, I don't really need a whole prompt section, and instead I'll just work on what I work on, and if it happens to match a hashtag, cool. If it doesn't, also cool. So yeah, but I do try to do at least a couple of buddy colors a month. I really like buddy colors. Again, it just makes it really fun to see how other people interpret it. So that's just where I write down here, so I can just tick off what the page is and what's done. And then we have the content planning one here. So this is what I used to do in 2023. I don't really do this anymore. So I would write down the dates for my live streams. As I record this, I have actually been on a live stream break for pretty much the last 2 months. But normally I would stream my colouring live on Tuesdays, Fridays and Sundays, New Zealand time, about 10 a.m. New Zealand time. So I would write down those dates. I never come back to this because it's in my phone. Again, I use the calendar on my phone, but I used to like write it down and then cross them off when I had actually done the days, supposedly. Again, I don't really do it. I used to also write down a plan for like when I was going to put up social posts. I now use the scheduler with Meta because I mostly post to Instagram, which also posts to Facebook as well. It's the whole reason I have Facebook, because it auto posts from Instagram. And I tend to schedule a bunch of posts at once. So it's more, I will be in the mood, I will queue up 4 or 5 posts, and then I ignore social media until I get back to it. I get very overwhelmed by social media. So yeah, I don't do this anymore because it just doesn't work for me. Again, you got to find a way that works for you. And I found I don't really use this. I used to also write down any specific videos that I was planning for the month and then tick them off when I did them. Again, my approach to YouTube this year is a lot more, when I have the spoons, I will do something, which is why I am very erratic with content posting. I do try to always make sure I'm at least doing my completed review for the month. Like, that's the one guaranteed video you'll get a month from me. Hopefully you'll get more, but again, mental health-wise this year, things have kind of gone, so we're being gentle. You get what you get. you know, you gotta look after yourself. And then also when I had Patreon, I would also track all my stuff for Patreon, but again, not anymore. Another thing I did for looking after myself. And then I also have in here my purchase list. So I did start separating out books and supplies, just so that it would be really clear what's a new book. Again, in May, I am just combining this in one because I haven't actually been buying a lot of supplies, but at the start of the year, I did buy quite a few supplies. The start of the year in New Zealand is also the start of the school year and the start of university year. Our years line up with the actual year in education. Makes it very easy. But it does mean that the end of January and February, that a lot of places have big art supplies clearance. Plus you've got Christmas and all that. But around the end of January, start of February, there's a couple of art supply stores that always do a big sale. So I knew in the first couple of months at least, I would be buying quite a few art supplies. Plus, with January being my birthday, I tend to get a couple of gifts and stuff as well. So yeah, that was pretty cool. In January, because I had my birthday, I also kept some receipts. That actually has nothing to do with my birthday. I also have a little pocket here where I've just kept some of my receipts because it's just easier. And then we get to the completed pages. So this is probably going to look real messy to a lot of people, and my completed pages tracker always looks messy, but at the end of the day, it's what works for me. This part is generally not shown. Like, this isn't done to be shown. This is done for me. So I like this. I like decorating, but I'm also just as happy when it's not decorated, and this is a system that works for me. So I tend to leave a few lines, and I have it broken up with 2 thin columns on the side and 1 big column at the start. And in here, I will write the start date and the end date of the page. So, for example, Worlds Within Worlds, I did the introduction ocean page. Now, I've written in here that I started this on the 3rd of January. This was an existing WIP, so it was actually started way earlier. I don't know the exact start date, but this is the date of that month that I started working on it. And then I finished it at the end of the month. So that's just my start, my end. And then if I don't finish it that month, obviously, it just gets left blank. And then I will write down the title of the book. Sometimes I write down the illustrator, but most of the time I don't need the illustrator because I know what the title refers to. And then I will write down the title of the page or something that kind of works for the title of the page. Like in Luna, I just called it Deer. I'm not very original. Sometimes it's like Intro Ocean, Beach Batch, Forest Nymph, Kitty Forest, like Ladybugs. Sometimes it's original and sometimes it's just like, yep, that'll do. It's a deer. It's the deer page. As long as I know what it means, that's all I care about. And then I will also write down the media that I used on the page. And this all just helps me when it comes to the end of the month and I'm doing the wrap up, because I have the media, the page, yada, yada, yada. And then I will also make notes of, for if it's a buddy color or a group color. So I will write if it's with anybody. So here it was for a New Year's Eve prompt for a Facebook Messenger group. And I will also note things like it was a work in progress page from my work in progress list. If it's a new book, existing WIP or anything like that. Here with this Flower Girls page, I had a disaster on this page, so I wrote that it is a new WIP because I knew I was not going to be finishing that one. So when I do finish a page, this is when I will come in with a marker and I will cross that page off. And that is how I know when I quickly look at my list and go, oh crap, I need to go back and work on this. Or these are the ones that I've still got to work on for the month. And when I do my wrap up, it's like, cool, I did this many pages and I created these WIPs. I also have on the side here a box for social, where I will do a little tick if I have posted on social media. And then this final one is meant to be my tracker, but I have not updated my tracker since January. So I really need to come in here and actually update my tracker. I have an application on my phone. It is Buddy Color. It is a French created application, but it is fully in English now. And you can use it to track the number of completed pages in a book. And so that's how I know, for example, with Mythomorphia, I've completed 60% of the book. But I need to go in there and actually update it since January because I haven't done it. I'll get there eventually. So, yeah, as you can see, I just carried on a page here. January was my birthday, so I also did a bunch of birthday giveaways in my Twitch stream. So that's just all the information in there about it. It's just for me to know a place to keep it. And that's the thing about this journal, is like, it's my colouring journal, but I will track or just chuck in other things like my graduation speech or like scripts for videos. If I actually did script out my videos, it really does not happen often. And in the case of January, I just chucked in all the birthday giveaway information. So yeah, this is February spread. You can see the same thing again. We have our socials, Patreon, and then the totals, the buddy colours. Again, the prompts is completely empty. And then I also have the list of work in progress pages, because what I realised after January is that initially I was like, oh, I don't need to write down work in progress pages because I have it at the start. But of course, this is going to change from month to month. And this is my start of the year, end of year comparison. So now what I do every month is I rewrite down the work in progress list with any additions or changes, so that I have a running list and I know what is needing to be worked on. Because again, one of my goals is to get this down to under 10, to single figures. So it's really important to me to have a running list of what is a work in progress. And you can see this month I managed to cross a couple of them off, which is cool. And again, list of buddy colours. This month we have purchases. So you can see in February I actually didn't purchase a lot of supplies. I did get a bunch of secondhand colouring books, but I don't need a full page for this list. I used to make this half a page, and then this would just be available for something else. In February I had nothing else to chuck here, so I just chucked in the receipts. Again, I had the space. And then we get back to the pages. You can see this month I did not post a single thing on social media. Oh, it happens. It happens. But yeah, it's the same thing. We have the start and the end date. I never wrote an end date for that one. I might have finished it on the same day. I did definitely finish that one because I hated it. Oh, it happens. But yeah, start, end date, title of book, media, and then notes about it being a work in progress, new book in a buddy colour. Yeah. Here I made a note that this was a PDF, just so that I didn't accidentally count it into like a book total, because I am not tracking my PDFs per se. It still counts to like my completed pages for the month and completed pages total, but of course it doesn't affect books because it's not a book. It is a single PDF. And so most months I need 2 pages. I tend to do 10 at a minimum. I think around 15. It depends on the month. Some months I do like over 20, and some months I barely scrape 10. I think most of this year I've done at least over 10. Yeah, I did 15 in February. I'm just curious now. I did 9 in January. But I had a lot of started pages, or pages that I worked on. Yeah, but I only completed 9 in January, and then I did 15 in February. So increasing. I had a lot of travel in January, so it makes sense. And then we're into March. So you can see this one. There's not as much work that went into this one. It's still pretty. And this one, I like literally just couldn't find my ruler, so I was hand drawing a lot of lines. Again, it's my colouring journal. It's what works for me. This is why my handwriting is atrocious a lot of the time. I don't care. It's what works for me. As long as I can read it and it makes sense to me, that's the point. It's not meant to be shown to you. But you can see in March, I didn't buy any supplies, so yeah. That one was a bit useless, which is why I'm like, maybe I don't need to separate it out, because it's mostly books that I do buy if I track anything. But same thing again, we've got our socials. March is where I closed my Patreon, so we cut that out. I finished 24 pages in March. March was a good month. And then we have the work in progresses here. And then I also had to make a note about unhauled book, because in March I did my first ever unhaul and I removed 19 books. So I had to do a bunch of like, okay, 19 books are being removed, but how many of these get removed from the worked in and how many of these get removed from the unworked list. How many of these had work in progress pages that we're getting rid of. So yeah, there's a little bit of scribbling on my part, but at the end of the day it works for me. So yeah, these like notes here for like the whips, because 2 of the books that I got rid of had old whips in them. In fact, this Creative Haven Owls page, I left that book at my mum's for my niece to colour in, because she likes to help Auntie. So I pointed out that I had this tree house that I'd started, but I just wasn't sure how to finish it, and she had great fun helping me finish that page and had very strong opinions on the colours, so it's very cute. She's done an amazing job with it, and she had a great fun with it too. So that was really cool to pass on to somebody. But yes, we made a note, so I put finished 2, but I mentioned that 2 of them were that was because 2 were also unhauled, because I finished 2 and then I also unhauled 2, which meant we got rid of 4 work in progress pages, but then I created 2, so you know. And then you can see my really messy pages list, because again I just couldn't find a ruler and I was just like, we'll just hand draw it. Now I did actually post some to social media, but I forgot to put in here when I had posted them to social media, so you know, don't worry about the list too much. But it's the same exact deal: start date, end date, about the book, any notes about the book, if it's a new book, if it was a work in progress. Like this one here, Leela Julie, that's Walk in the Woods. I just call it Walk in Woods. I didn't even title the page, and I just wrote Polly's. Like, it's so bad writing, but it makes sense to me, you know? And it's the same deal. Once the page is done, write the finish date, cross it off the list, and it leaves it really clear to see what I haven't finished for the month. Then we get into April, and as you can see, April I really didn't care too much about decorating. I just wrote April and stuck down some bee stickers. It's like, done. Some months I go hard, some months I just don't care. So exact same thing again. Now, because I'm filming this at the end of April, of course I haven't finished filling all this in, so none of that information's here. We have the updated work in progress list with the additions from last month, so you can see the Walk in the Woods. I called it Lilies. I don't think they're actually lilies on the page. I think I just called it Lilies. And then the Garden of Fairy Tale Animals. So those are the 2 pages from the previous month that got added to the list. And then you can see here I changed it to goals. And here I've got any buddy colours. I've got group buddy colour. I've got a couple of personal things, like one of the big things I wanted to do this month is hit 50% of my shelf work touch. So, you know, there's a secret. I hit 50% this month. As long as I buy no new books in the next couple of days. And yeah, so this one here, I did have books and supplies separated, but again, in future, I'm just going to merge this into one. This is relating to a group project that I am now in for Alien World, so it's just writing down the information, but because people get added and things might change, and it also doesn't include user names for YouTube versus Instagram, I have separated this out into a thing on my phone. So yeah, the note's there, but doesn't need to be there. And then once again, the exact same deal. I actually remembered to note when I posted things to social media this month. So you're getting a little sneak peek if this goes up before the end of month wrap up. I don't know yet. Exact same deal as before, and same thing. And then we get into May. So in May, I didn't actually do a title page. I was like, I can't be bothered doing a title page, so I just wrote May. A bunch of mermaid stickers, a bunch of glitter washi, and scale washi, like easy peasy. Once again, exact same thing. Socials, totals, no Patreon because again that's gone. Work in progress and books, room for the work in progress page, and then you can see here my goals. I've made this box much smaller because I don't usually need a lot of room. So far I've just written down buddy colours. There's room if I need to add in some more, but again I don't do a lot of hashtags, and I try to limit my buddy colours to like no more than 5, and I've got a lot of plans for May, so I think we're pretty good on that front there. And so here I actually made room for my purchases to go, because I'm not planning on purchasing a lot in May, and I think this will be more than enough room. I mean, if I filled out that whole thing, that's a lot of books. So yeah, so I just kind of compressed that all to one page for me. And then we have the actual list ready to go. Again, I tend to prep 2 pages, because if it's a good month, we're going to need 2 pages. And if need be, I can always create a third. So yeah, that's it. We've still got quite a bit left in the book, so I think I should have no worries about getting through the rest of 2024 in this notebook. She's getting chonky, but I like that. And at the end of 2024, I will figure out what I'm going to do next. If I want to go to a smaller book, I like having the big spreads. I like having lots of room to write. I like having a hardcover book as well. So I don't like having the spiral bound though. So many of my pages are pulling away from that. So yeah, I don't know what we'll do for next month, but next year. But this is basically how I track each month and what goes into my colouring journal. I hope you found it interesting. I hope that made sense. It felt very rambly. Again, a lot of what I track is just what works for me. It's what works for me. I particularly still really like this spread, and I get a lot of questions about this spread. So yeah, a lot of work to set up, but once it's set up, it is a very excellent way to visually see how you're going with your shelf. And there's nothing more satisfying of when I know I get to pick up a pink highlighter and come in here and cross off a new book. There's something so satisfying about it. So I don't think I've got like any single stack done. I'm very close to having this stack done, or that one. If I just work in that one, that would technically be done too. I mean, some of these are bigger stacks and stuff, but I'm looking forward to when I like complete a shelf as well. I think it's going to be like really satisfying. We're getting there. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video and this helped you in some way. I don't know. I like watching people's journals and seeing what they track. Be interesting to know. But I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye!